No one gets married planning for divorce. However, in order to protect your marriage, it is something you should consider before you actually get married. My name is John Cannon. I'm a divorce attorney in Oklahoma City, and I'd like to talk to you about some things you can do before you get married, as well as some steps you can take once you are married to decrease the chances of getting divorced. It's a sad fact in our country that more than 45% of marriages end in divorce across the United States. However, many of the people that step into marriage have simply not prepared or evaluated whether the person they're dating, attracted to, or even in love with is the right person for them to spend the rest of their life with. Some of the things that you can do in order to protect yourself before you get married and determine whether the person that you find yourself in love with or wanting to be married to is actually the right spouse for you. First, we encourage you to consider looking into a prenup. Prenuptial agreement does not have to be something contentious or a fight between you and your soon-to-be spouse. It's a form of insurance on your marriage, and it's something to protect the interests of both you and your future spouse. Additionally, prenuptial agreements is an opportunity for you and your soon-to-be spouse to have some of the serious conversations that probably should have taken place before you asked that person to marry you and the other person accepted that offer. Some of the things that you should consider in a prenup is what you'll do as far as children are concerned. Alimony, spouse support, finances, and other important discussions that should happen before you even decide to get married. If you've not gotten married yet, you still have the opportunity to have some conversations about key issues that will come up at some point in your marriage. First and foremost, you need to talk about finances. Finance is one of the top 2 reasons that cause people to come to our office and seek divorce across the United States. It's important that you be on the same page, or at least have understanding between you and your soon-to-be spouse about how you handle finances. Whether that's how you will spend your extra funds, what type of lifestyle you live, whether you will save a substantial amount of money each month, or if you're both okay with living month to month on your finances. One of the next important questions is your faith. For some people, faith is a core tenet of who they are, and for some people, it is not something they have any interest in. It's important to at least have a conversation with your soon-to-be spouse about where you find yourself, whether you be Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, atheist, agnostic, pagan, or any other faith base. It's important to at least have conversation and if possible be on the same page with someone regarding your religion. Religion is such a key aspect to so many people's lives that it is not something that you're on the same page as your spouse. It can lead to differences that will result in a divorce. One of the next important things to have a conversation about is your political views. Again, politics is something that a few people care very much about and many people care not about at all. And so it's an important topic that you and your spouse talk about. You don't have to have the exact same ideological perspective. You do not have to believe in the same candidate during every race, but it is important that you at least have a mutual respect for what the other person's political beliefs are, what they think about our governance, and that you either are on the same page on these issues or have a small enough difference that you all can come to terms with what those differences are. Another important conversation to have is intimacy or your sex life in your marriage. People find themselves across the spectrum on their level of interest and how frequently they want to be intimate with their partner. Now, things are different before you get married and after you get married. Life happens, children, work, stress, frustrations, and your sex life will go up and down during the course of your marriage. But it's important to be on the same page, at least what your expectations are, what your spouse's expectations are. And again, not that they have to be identical, but it's important to be on the same page about what the other person expects and what you're willing to do to meet that person in the middle or to discuss the topics related to sex. Another important issue is raising children. Many people come to our office and they had never discussed the issue of children, whether it be one spouse wants to have a child, the other does not, or completely different views on raising children, which is the second most common issue that leads to divorce, at least for the clients that we see. It's important to talk about whether you and your soon-to-be spouse even want to have children. Many people are dead set they never want to have children, and under no circumstance would they. Some people are dead set that they want to have 4, 5, 6, 7, or even more children than that. And your spouse may be completely different field or perspective on the issue of children than you. Again, you do not have to be on the exact same page related to how many children, whether you want boys or girls, whether you want to adopt or foster, or any of the specific details about raising children. However, it's important that you be at least in the same area or have a similar perspective as your spouse. If you both want to have children and you both decide that you want to have children together, either biological children or adoption, This is a key issue to discuss before getting married and make sure that you and your spouse have some type of agreement about down the road, after marriage, what you both want to do about having children. And additionally, how you want to raise children. There are very different philosophies, belief systems, perspectives on what the proper way is to raise children and also to discipline children. Although you may not have any children yet with your love or your soon-to-be spouse, it's important to discuss this key issue as well. We see so many people that come to our office and seek divorce based on differences on wanting to have children or how to raise children in their home. So we've talked about prenuptial agreements and how they can be a form of insurance on your marriage and an opportunity to have key conversations. We've talked about some of the most important conversations that you should have before you get married, particularly finances, religion, intimacy, raising children, and the other issues that we discussed. Now I'd like to talk to you about ways that you can save your marriage from the perspective of a divorce attorney if you are already married. One of the first things that you can do is be selfish for your spouse. You've heard the term so many times of marriage is 50-50 and both sides have to put in hard work. Well, there's also two human beings in a marriage, and you will not always be on the same level of interest or same level of love or care for your spouse as your spouse will be towards you. It's important to recognize that marriage is hard work, and there'll be times that you love your spouse far more than they appear to love you, and there'll be times that they love you more than you act towards them out of love. The next thing to keep in mind is that your spouse has a different love language than you. There's a great book called The 5 Love Languages. I highly encourage you to either watch a video related to this topic or read the book itself. One of the premises of the 5 love languages is that we each feel love differently, and how we communicate love to someone in our life is typically through one of our own love languages. One of the greatest things I've done in my marriage is to identify my wife's love languages and try, even though I struggle often, to speak to her and communicate with her through her love languages. One of the other important things to do is to keep dating your spouse. Life happens, children happen, work happens, but it's important to keep in mind that you and your spouse should still dedicate time to each other. Find ways to get out to dinner. Find ways to go on, even if it's an overnight staycation, but find time to dedicate to just each other. Remove yourselves from television, from the distractions of children and the other things in life. Another important thing to keep in mind is that fights happen. Me and my wife have arguments. Every marriage has arguments. It's important to keep in mind that you should keep the lines of communication open. There are few things that cause more strife in a marriage than deep-seated anger or resentment on an issue that's not discussed and worked out. Now, that does not mean that you have to resolve every single little issue with your spouse, but if there is a substantial issue or discrepancy or argument that is going on in your marriage or something you can't meet eye to eye on, it's important to talk it out and see if there is a middle ground. Remember, marriage is work. It's not all fun and games. There is times where you have to fight for your marriage and that your spouse will have to do so as well. If these things are not causing you and your spouse to be able to work towards reconciliation on issues, before you pick up the phone and call a divorce attorney, keep in mind there's the opportunity for marital counseling. This comes in all sorts of varieties. You can go to individual counseling for issues that you're experiencing or issues that you perceive about your spouse. There's all sorts of types of marital counseling that you and your spouse could do together, either through your church, through the state, or through private counseling services. We encourage you to look into ways to try and seek resolution in your marriage or ways to seek outside help for resolution in your marriage prior to the ultimate decision of filing a divorce. However, if you or your spouse decide that your marriage is over, we encourage you to be intelligent and get all the information available about the issue. Divorce is a life-altering event, but there is light at the end of that tunnel if your marriage comes to the point of divorce. We encourage you to pick up a copy of our book, Informed Divorce, or check out the unlimited resources on our website related to that issue.